Well, the General Assembly effectively wrapped up the short session in the last week of June, and a lot of the issues and bills that we were watching as an organization were really addressed in that final week. Just before they adjourned, they passed the standalone hemp bill, which would essentially remove industrial hemp from the State Controlled Substances Act and bring it into line with federal law on that issue. That provision had previously been part of the North Carolina Farm Act of 2022, but the House passed it in a separate bill, and so procedurally the two chambers had to figure out how to handle that issue. Ultimately, they did pass the standalone bill for hemp, and then they also passed the North Carolina Farm Act. In addition, they passed a budget bill, which makes some changes to the larger budget bill that they passed during the long session last year. So we'll talk a little bit about what's in the budget bill here in just a minute. The Farm Act was pretty non-controversial this year. It passed with wide bipartisan margins. The hang-up on the Farm Act was in determining how the two chambers were going to work out that hemp provision. So that was the reason for some of the no votes that came in the House. I think it passed unanimously in the Senate. The Farm Act was a pretty standard bill. There weren't a lot of major changes, no major overhauls or anything like that, just a lot of clarifications to existing law. There was a clarification around the building code and the fire code that we as an organization were seeking. There's also a provision that calls for a study on right to repair farm equipment. And I know that's an issue that a lot of our members are interested in. They'll continue to be engaged on that. The bill will call for a study committee to look at that issue, and so we'll be providing a lot more details on how that process is going to play out. The governor has signed all of these bills, the Farm Act, the budget bill, and the standalone hemp provision now, so they're all law. And so as that study committee is formed and that process moves forward, we'll be sure to keep everyone posted. Yeah, so the budget includes a few key things for agriculture. Obviously, the budget that was passed last year is wide-reaching. There was a lot of discussion and different things that they did in the budget. This one was more just kind of refining, dealing with some excess money that the state budget has to allocate towards different things. So this year's budget does include salary increases for state employees and teachers. The budget, importantly for agriculture, the budget includes additional funding for our ag research stations, which are like all of our farmers. They're seeing an increase in input costs and operating costs. So it provides some additional money there to handle those increased costs. In addition, the budget provided $1.6 million a year in recurring funds for North Carolina A&T State University for their ag and cooperative extension. It also includes $1.5 million one-time non-recurring funding for the North Carolina Foundation for Soil and Water Conservation, and that is intended to go towards a cost share for swine farms that are installing anaerobic digesters for biogas production. And then finally, it also includes a $10 million one-time non-recurring allocation to the Crop Loss Assistance Program. And if you'll remember, the Crop Loss Assistance Program was established last year in the budget to really cover losses from Tropical Storm Fred and from the major freeze that Western North Carolina experienced last year. So additional funding was allocated there, and additional counties were also included. So those are kind of the major highlights for agriculture in the budget. Again, not a lot of transformational things, but just some good, solid updates and clarifications. Yeah, so when the General Assembly adjourned, they did so with dates already set to come back. So they're going to come back on July 26th. I think that will be to kind of handle any vetoes that the governor has issued. As I said, the governor signed most of the bills that we were watching, including the budget bill. He did issue some vetoes, so it remains to be seen how the General Assembly will choose to handle those, if they'll try to override those vetoes or let them stand. So they'll be back on the 26th to decide that and any other issues that may play out between now and then. They can always handle additional business, but there's nothing that's been announced yet. Same goes for all of the rest of the dates that they have set sort of periodically between now and the end of the year. They have some dates that they're planning to come back if they need to, but nothing has been announced, no expectation that members will actually need to come back into town to handle business. And then ultimately the General Assembly plans to adjourn for good in December. Well, I hope that you won't see me again on here this year. If you do, that means that something has really propped up that we're not expecting. So don't plan to see you all again this year, but you never know.